Afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. For some people that don't know my background, we used to have a family business in Tipton called Hooties, and we used to supply all the shopkeepers that used to serve people in Dudley and Tipton and all around the area. When my father sold Hooties and went to live in Mallorca, my father said to me, "What are you going to do?" And on the market stall in Bilston, we used to sell things that come out of his packaging. We used to throw in a cardboard box and sell for 10p. And this box took more money than anything else on the market stall. And with the pound coin being redeveloped, we put the two and two together and came up with the Poundland concept, selling things for £1. And it was actually Shane, who was with us today, who rented me an office in the Concord Centre. We started in the local area, and we looked everywhere to find a shop. And I'll always remember we thought we'd get a shop in Dudley and Wolverhampton and the local area, but we couldn't find it. It took us about 5 years to find a shop in Dudley. So the first store opened in Burton-on-Trent, and we grew it. The marketplace now is worth over 5 billion and employs tens of thousands of people across the country. But even Poundland are changing the price point these days and struggling on the high street. Recently...
Sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm being signalled. Steve, you've got to stand in the black box.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Recently, we sold Poundland a few years ago, and I'm involved with lots of different businesses, but I looked at starting up some sandwich shops. And again, I looked to the local area, Dudley, Wolverhampton, to open these stores, and found it very difficult and very different to when I started Poundland. Poundland, on the market stall, I learned you need passing trade. The brightest stall with the passing trade selling the right products took the most money. And when I went to places like Dudley, Wolverhampton, it was very difficult. Where's the people gone? These days, it's very easy for people to travel, to the city centres like Birmingham. And also, again, like Poundland, all the towns became the same, where you had lots of one-band traders, like when we opened the first store. Most towns had a Poundland, a Primark, and all these towns, they all begin to look the same. So I found a lot of customers would travel from the local towns into the big centres. At the moment, I am also involved with online shopping. And although it's quite easy to blame, online shopping is taking people away from the centres, I believe there's a marketplace for both. Most of the stores that we had, Poundland, we had big storerooms which we never used. If I had Poundland today, I would be using those storerooms for also supplying customers across the country internet, because I think there's room for both. The warehouse we've got in Wednesbury, my son actually does it now. We've got poundshop.com online, and it costs us a lot of money to run the warehouse, as it would be a lot cheaper if we was running it in store. So I do believe there's a marketplace for both. I also found I brought somebody to Dudley recently, and I was actually at the cousin's place in Dudley, where I went to buy new furniture and was probably going to spend a couple of £1,000 there. And within 10 minutes of being in there, the owner of Cousins, which I knew, came to see me and said, "Oh, Steve, what are you doing here?" "I've come to buy some furniture." And it was very difficult to see what crime was like in Dudley. In fact, while I was there was 3 young guys throwing glasses at the window. And that was very different to when I used to have a shop in Dudley. So it's very hard for me to see how things have changed. But again, so if I was starting shops today, when I started looking open sandwich shops, I found the estate agents would take me away from the local smaller towns, and it was almost like they wasn't interested in the smaller towns. They wanted me to go to the bigger towns. Also, the rates was very different. rates where I used to, when I Poundland, rates would always be half what you pay in rent. These days, it seems that landlords have really reduced the rent because rates are so high. And where landlords used to give you incentives to move into their shops, there seems to be no incentive these days. So the marketplace has changed, but I do believe if, hopefully rates are going to come down, hopefully rents can start going up, which will give the landlords more money to invest into the property. And the other thing which we was talking about before was in Broyle and Dudley, there's a lot of old properties. I also found it very difficult when talking, when I wanted to change something. Well, one of these sandwich shops is we have to change and put different. The regulations are now really changed, and it costs a lot of money to put disabled toilets, ramps, all the fire, all the things you have to put in shops now. It costs the same amount to fit a shop in Dudley as it does in Oxford Street in London. Yeah, but the turnover is very different. So it has totally changed from when I started Poundland. But again,